Hey there, JKs, and hey there, SKs. It is time to keep on learning about clocks. So I am going to dive right in and do a quick review as to what we have learned about analog clocks so far. Here, follow me. Before we look at our lesson, let's take a good look at our main subject. Our main subject of investigation is this beautiful analog clock. Now, analog is just a fancy word that means that you'll see all the numbers in a clock. Sometimes clocks don't look like this. Sometimes you'll see the numbers written down in something that looks like this. For instance, if it was 1 o'clock, it would be 1 dot dot 0 0. Now, when you see a clock that looks like this is called a digital clock. This is called a digital clock. And we're going to be learning about these really soon. But for now, we're sticking to our beautiful analog clocks, which are a little bit trickier to read, which are also super fun when you get the hang of it. So on our analog clock, there are 12 numbers. The numbers start right here on top with the number 12 and then go down all the way around until it reaches 12 again. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and back to 12. That means that this clock shows 12 different hours of the day. Now, if you see here on our digital clock, the 00 means it's telling the time on the hour. It's exactly 1 hour and 0 minutes. It's 1 o'clock. Now, you'll notice here on the analog clock that there are 2 hands, the short hand and the long hand. The short hand tells us the hour. The short hand tells us the hour. And the long hand tells us the minutes. The long hand tells us the minutes. So when you see the long hand right here on the 12, that's like saying it's a clock. It's 0 minutes. The 12 represents 0 minutes gone by. So whenever you see the minute hand on the 12, it's a brand new hour. And if you were to write it down digitally, there'd be 2 zeros. Now, the hour clock is what we're really focusing on today. The little hand tells you what hour it is. So if I look at this clock, the small hand is pointing to the 5. And because the minute hand is on 0 minutes, it's right ding on the new hour. So we would say 5 o'clock. Once again, as long as you see the long minute hand on the 12, you want to always say o'clock. So this clock is showing 5 o'clock. All right, let's erase this and look at a new clock on the next page. Great. Okay, so here on this clock, it's missing its hands. How many hands are on an analog clock? Do you remember? Is it 1, 5, 10? No, there are 2 hands on the analog clock, a short one and a long one. Do you remember what the short one tells us? That's right, the short hand tells us the hour and the long hand tells us the minute. A way that I always used to remember that is hour starts with the letter H and minute starts with the letter M. And hour, H, comes before the minute. H comes before M. So I always remember that the H, the hour hand, is the short one, and the M hand, M, is the long hand. H comes first, like it does in the alphabet. So this clock is missing its hour hand and its minute hand. To keep it simple, today we are going to make sure that the minute hand always stays on the 12. That means that whatever hour it is, it'll be that hour o'clock, because it'll be right there at 0 minutes gone by on a fresh new hour. So if I put the little hand right here pointing to the 2, can you guess what time it is? That's right, it's 2 o'clock. What if I put it here? What time is it now? That's right, now it's pointing to the 8, so it's 8 o'clock. Notice how the only thing that's changing is the hour, because the only thing that's moving is the short hour hand. The long hand is staying on the 12, and so we're always gonna say o'clock, o'clock, o'clock. Let's do one more. What time is it now? Good job. It is 11 o'clock. Now, sometimes if the hour hand is a little bit short and you can't tell where it's pointing, you could always just make that line a little bit longer by making some dots, and you can see where it's ending up. Now I can see very clearly it's on the 11. Now, this clock that you see down here is very special because it's missing everything. It doesn't have any of the numbers a clock needs, and it doesn't have its hands. So let's start off by adding the numbers onto this clock. Do you remember what number goes here all the way up on top? It's not 1. That's right, it's the number 12. This is kind of like our starting mark. It's where we start, and it's where we end up when we go all the way around the clock. Next comes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, so now we have all of our numbers written in. Remember, the 12's on top, and then after that, you go right to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., until you get back to the 12. So now what we're missing are the hands. How many hands are on the analog clock? 2 hands, exactly. So you want to find the middle of the clock. The hands aren't there on top. The hands aren't there on the side. The hands come out from the middle. So you want to find the middle of the clock and draw a little circle. That'll be the starting point for the hands. And as I mentioned, for the sake of this lesson, we're going to keep the minute hand, which is the long hand, always, always, always pointing up on the 12, which means 0 minutes have gone by, which means it's right smack on the new hour, ding, and we're gonna say o'clock. So whatever hour it is, it's that hour, o'clock. So now all that's missing is for us to draw in our little hand, which is the hour. Now it's 1 o'clock, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Oops, not very straight. 6 o'clock, look, it's making one straight line. When the hour hand is down on the 6 and the minute hand is pointing up to the 12, it makes a straight line. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I hope you're saying it with me, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and 12 o'clock. This time can be a little bit tricky to read because both hands are both pointing to the 12. And when you see that in a clock, you know it is 12 o'clock. All right. I think that was some really good review for today, and we are ready to go check out our lesson. So let's start off here with activity number 2. We're going to test our skills and answer some questions. So for this first activity, we need to use these clocks to match the time of day the children do the activities. So here we have 1 clock, 2 clock, 3 clock, 4 clocks. Okay, and here at the bottom, we have different activities. We have a bus that's going to school, eating lunch, leaving school, and eating dinner. So we have 4 clocks and 4 activities. Now, the first thing we have to do is write the time under each clock. All right, so I'm going to do the first one for you, and the rest are for you to do. I look at this clock, and I see, as it should be, the minute hand, the long hand, is on the 12. And so it's going to be on the hour. 0 minutes have gone by. I can write this as 0, 0. And now if I look at the hour hand, it's pointing to the 11. So this clock is showing 11 o'clock. And also, it's introducing you to what a digital clock looks like in a review lesson. When it's on the hour will be shown here. And then after the 2 dots or the colon, it'll say 0, 0. This means it's 11 o'clock. So you'll have to solve the time for the next 3 clocks. After that, you will need to figure out what time will the children do each of these things. So the children will go to school at which o'clock? Have lunch at what o'clock? Leave school at what o'clock? And eat dinner at what o'clock? So once you solve the time on all these clocks, you'll need to figure out what time all these activities are happening. The final thing for activity C is you need to draw a line from each picture to match the clock. So for instance, we know this first one is 11 o'clock. Do you eat dinner with your family at 11 o'clock in the morning? No. So you wouldn't want to draw a line from this clock to this clock. What activity do you do around 11 a.m. in the morning? School starts at 9 or 8:30 a.m. By 11 o'clock, usually you're getting ready to eat. So I think that this clock would have a line drawn to someone who is about to eat lunch. Once you have finished the activity, you may begin activity number 3. Now, for SKs, this whole activity worksheet is designed for you. And for SKs, I'd like you to only focus on 2 pages of the work. So you can do this first clock activity and the second page, and then the third page will not be for you. So for number 1, you will need to draw in the minute and the hour hands to show the time on each clock. So here in this first clock, you need to show 4 o'clock. Next clock is asking you to show 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 2 o'clock. Remember, because it's saying it wants you to show a time at the o'clock, an hour o'clock, the minute hand is always going to be pointing on the 12. You'll just need to change where the short hour hand is pointing. Number 2, which clock shows 10 o'clock? So look at your options. Which clock shows 10 o'clock? Hint, pay attention to where the hour hand is pointing, the short hand. Next page here, just for SKs. Number 3, which clock shows 5 o'clock? Which clock shows 5 o'clock? Again, pay attention to the hour hand, the short hour hand, because the top one is not moving. Number 4, which time matches the time shown on the clock? So take a look at this clock, find out what time it is, and then fill in the right bubble. Is it 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 7 o'clock? Number 5, which time matches the time shown on the clock? Look at the time, focus on where the hour hand is pointing. Is it 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, or 12 o'clock? Next, activity 4 is 1 page of math review. SKs, this is definitely for you to do, and JKs, this is optional. I want to make sure you do 2 pages of our topic-related worksheets. Do those first 2 pages of the analog clock review, and then the math review JKs is totally optional for you if you want a challenge today. For number 1, a bit of a geometry review. Circle the 3D shapes. 3D shape. Remember, 2D shapes lie flat, 3D shapes pop out. And then number 2 and 3 are some addition or subtraction review problems. So SKs, remember to read these very carefully. Remember to circle your numbers. Figure out, is it an addition problem, plus sign, or is it a subtraction problem, minus sign? Draw out your work and write an equation for both of these problems. Okay, JKs and SKs, thank you for sticking with me. I hope that that was a good analog clock review for you and that you are set to finish off your math activities. I will catch you later. Have a great day.